Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Career Hacking Village. We have Liana, or Geechee Threat as she is more often known, and Alyssa Miller. You can find them both on Twitter if you want to contact them or tweet them during the talk. And they are also available in Discord for questions.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you, everybody, and welcome to Fuck You, Pay Me, knowing your worth and getting paid. We're going to dive right in here. Let me first throw things over to Liana to introduce yourself.
Well, first of all, it's a wonderful honor to be here with you, Alyssa. Thank you, Rain. Thank you guys at DEF CON and everything. And before I go, first and foremost, especially for the sake of this conversation, I'd like to just say a special thank you to my ancestors, all the folks that have supported me throughout this. It's taken me 10 years to get here, but let me be living proof for all of you guys. I'm a strategist, I'm a coach, I'm a former public safety auditor. I have experience in public safety emergency management. I'm excessively Black, I'm excessively neurodivergent. I'm the founder of reparations.tech, and I'm excited for the sake of this talk because it's been a long time coming. A lot of folks get into this industry and they say, oh, I wanna make money, but they have no idea how to get here. So hopefully with my help and Alyssa's help, we're gonna help you guys get paid. So let's get it.
Awesome. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Alyssa Miller, hacker, researcher, security advocate, you name it. I've been a hacker all my life. I bought my first computer when I was 12. I messed around with this, little online community, some of you might remember, called Prodigy. But I've always been the type of person to tear technology apart, figure out how it works, and make it work better. I'm also a passionate member of this security community. I come from hacker culture way back in the day when, I kind of missed the BBS days, but I really hit hard when we were sitting in IRC on Undernet, chatting back and forth, sharing exploits and, tossing around insults, slapping each other in the face with fish, all that sort of thing. I've got 15 professional years, or actually now 16 professional years in security. And in my current role, I am the Business Information Security Officer for S&P Global Ratings. Basically what that means is I'm kind of like a divisional CISO, but instead of reporting to a centralized CISO, I'm part of the business. So my focus is really building a bridge between our business line or our division and our security organization. I'm also the co-host of The Uncommon Journey. I'm also almost done. Maybe by the time this is published, I will be done with my book. And that book is the Cyber Defender's Career Guide. It's your guide on how to break into this community, strategies that go beyond just how to become a pen tester or just, some of the basic skills, but really a holistic look. So a bit of an author as well. My passion is how do we make this community better? So let's dive in. Liana, I know you've got a great story to tell here, so let's get going.
Well, man, that's me probably destroying your network in some sort of way. And when I wake up in the morning, I think about violence, but unfortunately for the sake of cybersecurity, we can't do it with violence, y'all. My background, like I said before, is in public safety, emergency management, leadership, project management. I am the former curator and coordinator of a 215,600 square foot building. Former Senator Bill Nelson, public safety, anything dealing with incident management, emergency response, physical security. And while all of those things sound great on paper, it doesn't make the money, especially when you're in South Florida, where your cost of living, in order for you to, comfortably rent a 2 bedroom is $29.04 an hour. So if you're gonna get here into this industry, you gotta make the money. Everyone says you need a bachelor's degree. You do and you don't. It depends on who you are, but when you know your worth, you can find different ways to pivot through. I did. I'm living proof. Alyssa.
Yeah, so I've told you all a bunch about my story already, but let's talk a little bit more where I didn't share, and that's my career journey, because it goes to why, just as Liana expressed her passions for this and how, she kind of got involved and when we got together putting this talk together, For me, my career story, I learned so much from mostly mistakes I made in my journey, but also some really interesting successes I had. So early on in my career, it was a lot of what I feel is like accidental stumbling around. I got into a computer science program only after my original major as a pre-med didn't work out. Then I got a job as a programmer while I was still in school, and that was lucky just simply because it was the .com era. You didn't need to have a degree to become a programmer. And then I was working in a large financial services organization and got asked to join their security test team as a penetration tester. So a lot of serendipitous things that happened to me over the course of my career. But it's also been up and down in that, especially as I've progressed in more and more leadership roles, I've moved from job to job, oftentimes because things would happen with acquisitions and mergers. I had a number of different organizations get acquired or merged with other organizations where suddenly it wasn't the company that I knew and I didn't want to stay. I wanted to escape the new culture and get into something different. And through the course of that, oftentimes I found myself making the mistake of taking a pay cut or not going after that next step up in terms of role and responsibility. And no place was that more apparent than I was working for a reseller. And I reported to a director, and that director left the organization, and on his way out the door, he recommended me as his replacement, not just to the hiring VP, but also to the executive committee. And yet through some process, I got passed over and honestly never felt like I was treated fairly in that process. And it destroyed my self-confidence, where I thought, yes, I'm ready for that level of role. I'm really excited to go for it. Suddenly now I was second guessing myself because I got passed over. And so not only did I take a pay cut, but I also completely reset my career aspirations and took a role as an individual contributor. I had leadership roles for the previous 10 years, but now moved into this individual contributor role, took a pay cut, whatever, just simply because I wanted to get away from that organization. I made compromises I shouldn't have. And it was when one of the big three social media companies reached out to me as part of an executive search that they had going, that suddenly my confidence was renewed. And I got the role I was really dreaming of, a high level role where I lead security strategy for this large division of a well-known organization. But more importantly, in that process, I researched, I found out what my worth was, and I made sure I got paid. So I'm going to use those experiences. Liana is going to use her experiences to tell you so much more about how knowing what you're worth is crucial.
Here's the thing. A lot of people, if you go to Google, rule number one, RTFM, you guys know what that means. But a lot of people go and search in, how do I get inside of cybersecurity? And, everyone gets so excited. They see the money and the dollar signs, and then they see, you need a bachelor's degree. Okay, well, I don't have the money for a bachelor's degree. Well, you need a bachelor's degree. And that's all I've heard in the past year and a half until I decided to, I don't know, hack the system and say, I'm going to go around that, considering the fact that I have 36 credits for my IT degree, but the curriculum wasn't what I was looking for. It didn't interest me. I didn't have a community. And I knew that I needed more than a degree to get into this industry. I had a lot of the soft skills. I had a lot of physical security and public safety background. However, I had another caveat. I'm disabled. So I didn't see anyone like me. I haven't seen anyone like me. Like I said before, I'm powered by autism. I'm excessively Black. There's no one like me. And I realized that if I'm going to get into this industry, I'm going to have to make a community that caters to the same people that told me that I couldn't do it without the degree or anything else like that, certifications, bachelor's degrees. Yeah, you need them depending on those things. But what happens when you don't have the money? Who do you turn to? What are you going to do? It's great. You can get a bachelor's degree. If you guys are thinking that the bachelor's degree is the way to go, you guys aren't the people I'm trying to look for. I'm looking for the people that have the inspiration, because we can build technical skills. We can't build inspiration. We can't build a need for curiosity. Those things are the things that are on paper that people say that can't get you paid. They can get you paid. You just have to know how to navigate your way through, talk to the right people, get a sense of a community, and get a game plan. That's the other thing. A lot of people don't have that game plan. So yeah, you can get in. You don't need a bachelor's degree, but what are you gonna do? What's your game plan? Alyssa, I think you would definitely help me with that. And here's the thing. As someone that comes from a historically excluded background, I'm a citizen of the Gullah Geechee Nation. I come from a place where a lot of people don't make it out. And to be quite honest with you guys, 90% of the people in the areas that I come from, they don't know what cybersecurity is. So when you want a seat at the table and you don't see people that look like you or they sound like you can either fight against the opposition or you're gonna have to move around it. And while it sounds great on paper as well, you have to realize the situation of the industry. There are a lot of gatekeepers in this industry. And the name of the game of cybersecurity above all things is resilience. Resilience in life, resilience in the technical aspect, resilience in every single aspect. What are you going to do knowing that this is your opposition? Who are you going to band with? What are you putting yourself up against? Because while it sounds great and everybody thinks about the money won't help the situation and it won't get you to where you need to be if you think that this situation doesn't matter. This is where the money is.
So this idea of knowing your worth, how it's hard, right? When we start to think about knowing our worth, what do we think about? We think about salary. We think maybe we expand beyond. We think in terms of total compensation. You know, a lot of organizations now, you get a base salary, but you're also getting that, you know, that variable compensation in the form of a bonus program or something like that. But here's the thing, people struggle to know what they're worth because we don't talk about salaries, especially here in the US in particular. Talking about salaries is something that's frowned upon. We aren't allowed to do that. You're not allowed to share that information. That's like the big secret. You go into a job interview and what do? You know, they don't want to tell you what you make. Instead, they ask you, what do you want to make, right? Some jobs, and this is becoming less and less, thankfully, partially because states are starting to outlaw this, sometimes they even ask you, what do you make now? Here's the thing with knowing your worth. And I don't care if you're launching your career and this is going to be your first job, or if you're an experienced cybersecurity professional and you're looking to take that next step. When you're looking at jobs, your worth has nothing to do with what you're being paid today. When you take a job, you need to be getting paid for the job that you're going to do. Here's the thing. I was coaching somebody not very long ago in her career search. She was out to find a new job. She was trying to escape a toxic environment at her current employer. And so I'm sure there was a level of desperation. And as I talked to her, one of the things she was telling me was she was afraid that, you know, people would find out, you know, she wanted to go for a big bump in her salary, but she was afraid what would happen when they found out what she was making now. And my advice to her was, you don't have any reason you have to tell them. You never have to tell them what you make now. And what they decide to pay you should not be based on what you make today. You get paid for the job you're going to do and how qualified you are for that job. Here's the secret. Every organization has a salary range into which they want to hire you. Typically, in most organizations, those salary ranges are defined by the title of that position. So it is entirely okay for you when they ask you, what do you want to get paid, to turn that around and say, well, what is your salary range? And I'll tell you if I fit into that range. That's totally valid. And in fact, a lot of recruiters now actually expect that question to come. They won't offer it up to you. You got to know it. but be aware that this is something you need to understand what your value is going into that position and decide if it's a fit or not. Here's the other thing. If they ask you, what do you want to make? Be honest. Don't try to minimize it because you're afraid that they're going to tell you it's too high and they're going to stop talking to you. One, they're not. They're going to tell you, gee, that's higher than we're thinking for this role. You know, here's where we're at. Would you be okay with it? Is typically how they'll respond to that. But two, if their salary range isn't high enough for what you're targeting, you don't want that job anyway, because you're going to get hired into a job where you're working for, you're doing more work than what you're getting paid, and that's going to lead to an unhappy and toxic situation. So this all begins with doing your research. If you're going to enter the job search, know what roles you're looking at, and then do your research to find out what you should be getting paid. Glassdoor, LinkedIn, Indeed, they're great sources. Now, the data is not always 100% accurate, and it does vary by organization. But that's a great way to get some idea of what that salary range should be if you're looking for a security analyst role. How do you know what you should be getting paid? Get out there and look. Liana mentioned before this idea of your personal network. Why not talk to the people in your network? Who are you connected to on Twitter or LinkedIn that you can ask and say, hey, what do you think I should be making? It doesn't just have to be people who are in that role. It could be hiring managers who happen to have people in that same job function who can tell you what they would expect to pay. Do your research. Understand that if you're searching for a job, you want to go in there with a goal that ultimately matches up to what your needs are and is realistic for the job role. I mean, obviously you don't want to go in looking at a security analyst and say that your target salary is $500,000 a year. You're probably unlikely to find that. But that's also a good way to validate that you are looking at the right level of position as well. Because if you're looking at security analyst roles, but you're in a job today where you're making 120,000, security analyst might not be the job that you want to be looking at. You might want to be looking at something a little higher level, maybe a senior security analyst, maybe a specialist role, something of that nature. But going in prepared, knowing what that job is worth, it's challenging to do, but you need to do that research before you start having those interviews so that you can confidently discuss, what does that salary need to look like? Where do I need to be? What are my goals? And what is reasonable for me to ask for from this organization that I'm interviewing with? So that's knowing your worth. And knowing your worth is the first step to any job search. Again, whether you're launching a new career, whether you're pivoting careers, or if you are that experienced individual looking for your next step up. But what are some of the other challenges we face? Take a look at this job description for a minute. It's 3 pages long. Can you even read this? I know, the screen's small. I'm squinting if I want to read this. I'm sure most of you out there are squinting right now trying to read it. This is the job description for an information security architect, which is a high-level role. Don't get me wrong. This is a very skilled role that has to have a myriad of capabilities and experiences and knowledge and skills, absolutely without a doubt. But look at the laundry list of bullets of required experience and required skills and job responsibilities. Do you honestly believe that this organization is going to find some magical unicorn that matches up and checks all these boxes? No, they're not. Now, here's where I'm going to get real for you for a minute. The predominant demographic group in cybersecurity is white, heterosexual, cisgendered males. We know this. There's a million studies about it. We've all talked about it. Many studies about job descriptions like this will tell you that that predominant group will apply to a job like this if they match up to even 30% of those requirements. For underrepresented groups, though, women, Blacks, Hispanics, the LGBT, we tend to think that we have to check more boxes because we've been conditioned to believe that we have to hold ourselves to a very high level to justify our placement in these jobs. You need to throw out those preconceptions and those personal biases that you have. What I tell people to do when they look at these horrible job descriptions that sometimes ask you to have 10 years of Kubernetes experience. By the way, it's existed since 2016. Nobody in the world has 10 years of experience, okay? Job descriptions like that exist. Job descriptions that for entry level, that say you got to have a CISSP. You know, you got to have 5 years to get a CISSP. Forget all this. Ignore the stuff in job descriptions that don't make sense. Instead, when you look at a job description, look at the narrative you see here at the top that talks about what that particular role is responsible for. Not the laundry list of bullets, not the requirements, just that early narrative that describes the role. Does that sound like something you're confident you can do? Do those technologies that they're talking about sound like things that either you know or you could learn, you're confident you could learn? If so, apply to that job. It's not always about having experience in all of those technologies. It's not always about being able to show that you've ticked off all these boxes because you're not going to. No job description ever will you tick off every box, every bullet point. It's simply not possible, not the way that we write job descriptions today. So it's time for us to be smarter. It's time for us to recognize how our experience connects to the required job responsibilities. Liana, tell us more.
Here's the thing about this. When I look at these pieces of paper and I look at these job descriptions, I basically bypass them. My grandma always told me, even if you don't think you have a chance, put it in because you never know what could happen. And that's what I did with public safety. I went from no one knowing me in the middle of background, going to training folks anywhere from ages 18 to 72, tabletop exercises, doing my own details, working with 3-letter agencies. Y'all wouldn't even hear me and didn't even know that I existed if I had a basic resume that looks like that. To the people who are HR and HR, the recruiters, anyone in HR, when you guys go through these algorithms, please understand you have people that are looking to change the ecosystem of cybersecurity. You're not going to get to know a person through that, especially when you look at the job responsibilities and they don't add up. Sometimes people are asking for way more than what the person can handle. Sometimes you have to shoot your shot. You never know what you can happen. You never know what could happen. However, you got to be realistic. But if you think you even have at least 3 good bullet points, shoot that shot. And don't shoot it blind. Go to LinkedIn, start doing some research and figure out who's behind this. Because guess what? Computer doesn't know you, baby, but the person that you're talking to, they know you. And that's what's going to matter if you want to know your worth and come on and get paid now. Oh, Alyssa, I appreciate you so much. You can continue. Thank you.
So I think it's important that we talk about how do you set your salary requirements. So I mentioned doing research before. Senior security specialist. Look at that. $119,000 a year. Does that sound about right? How do you know? Does that cover what you need to live your day-to-day lives? $120,000 a year in New York City. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. We live in a brave new world today, don't we?
We do.
COVID taught a lot of organizations that work from home works. We can actually do this. Companies that were afraid to allow their employees to work remotely, maybe I don't need to work in New York City. So understand when you set those salary requirements, they need to be personal. They need to be about you. They need to reflect what it is that you need from your job. Because at the end of the day, if you get into that job and you're underpaid, you can't make ends meet, you can't pay your bills, you're in the wrong job. So look before you leave. Understand what you need to get paid. Then understand this idea. Here's another secret that maybe you're not aware of. Did you know that organizations will adjust your salary based on where you live? This is going to be a challenge as we move forward in this work from home environment, or even these hybrid environments where we don't always have to be in the office. Organizations are already talking about it, where their salary ranges might be set because they're thinking in terms of San Francisco, where they're based. And San Francisco having the highest cost of living, they've set their salary ranges high. But many of those employees, when they were working from home, moved to places like Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, the Midwest, where we have a considerably lower cost of living. And organizations are starting to question whether or not they should be paying those individuals as much money because, well, they don't have the same cost of living. Now, I'm not going to sit here and debate this with you about whether that's right or wrong. I have strong opinions on it, but honestly, I can see the arguments both ways. But the reality is to understand that and know that this is an area where it should inform you in terms of setting your salary requirement. Now, me, I live in the Midwest. I work for a company that's based in New York City. When I came to them and I was talking to them about that job, we were talking salary, they quoted me a salary based on where I lived in the Midwest. That salary didn't match up with my requirements. So what do? I knew what their salary range was. I knew they had room to go higher, and I pressed them for it. So we're going to talk later about negotiating, how you negotiate a job offer. But understand, when you set that salary requirement, you got to understand that that is your requirement, and you have a right to push for that requirement. Make sure it's going to make you whole. Make sure it's going to be the thing that's going to make you happy in that job. Are you going to be happy if you're working at a senior security specialist on the low end of this range, $55,000 a year, you're living in New York City? I don't know anybody that can live on $55,000 a year in New York City.
Bye.
That's probably not the job you want. I agree. Liana, it's like, out of here. And so, we need to be aware of that. We need to hold out for more. So set that job, that salary requirement, and then go beyond. What is total compensation going to look like for you? And we're going to talk more about that. Things like variable comp with bonuses, benefits, all those other factors when we talk about negotiating your salary and negotiating that job offer. But start to think about those. What is most important to you? What are some of the alternative ways you may get compensated, and do those make up for salary requirements? We'll come back more on that later. But another key to getting paid and progressing in your career is really understanding the whole interview process differently. Rejections from an interview process are not necessarily bad things. They are an opportunity for you to learn and to grow, to identify where you might have weaknesses that you can improve upon. The key thing here, when you get a rejection letter, a decline letter, I hate calling it a rejection even, it always just sounds so negative. Understand that that's not a personal condemnation of you. That's an indication that you weren't right. They didn't feel you were the right fit for that job. And if you're not the right fit, trust me, you don't want to be there. Now, do they get it wrong sometimes? I'm a hiring manager. I've hired, tons of people. Do I get it wrong sometimes? Absolutely. Maybe I passed on somebody I should have hired. They would have been the better fit. But hiring managers try to do their best. So it's not personal if they don't choose you. It's that they found somebody else for whatever reason they felt might be a better fit. But that doesn't mean that you're interviewing there what didn't have value. First of all, you just got exposure to new people. You may have helped build that network. Remember, we're talking about how important that network is. You've become exposed to the community, and Liana's going to talk in a minute about community and how important that is. But it's also an opportunity for you to get feedback. How many of you, when you get a letter declining you for a job opportunity, do you actually respond and ask for more information? Do you send that recruiter an email and say, hey, can you share with me, where I could improve, ways that would make me a better fit for a role like this? You should. Now, admittedly, there are some organizations out there who, for whatever reason, proudly state that they will not share that information. I don't know why. I'm not going to argue it. That's on them. I don't care for that approach. I think that employers owe that to potential candidates, and most will provide you some level of feedback. Ask for it. Use that as an opportunity. Don't get upset and take it personally. Instead, hey, understand that failure, I'll use that term, is how we learn. We don't learn from being successful. We learn from the failures that build us up to a success. So take your job declines that way. That's your opportunity to grow and learn and find new ways to improve, to make yourself the right fit for the next organization that you come to. But it's about so much more. Let's talk more about community. Liana, I want you to jump in here.
Well, here's the thing. Everybody loves Pokemon, but everybody's not going to like the message that I have to say, and I don't really care. In cybersecurity, in tech, anything that deals with this industry, I need you all to understand that community is much more than fake friendships and LinkedIn contacts. Since the time that I've had my talk, I've met more people that have wanted to network for the sake of, oh, well, can I get a job here and here? Let's face it, we know that cybersecurity, we talk about the industry, we talk about the things that are happening. But who are the people that are behind the handles? How many of you guys actually know the people that are behind the handles? Do you take time to get to know them? Do you sit down and do research? Do you come to them with educated questions? Do you find yourself in communities that don't look like you, that don't sound like you? Do you champion yourself as an ally, and not because you put it in a Twitter bio, but do you actually walk the walk and talk the talk to be an ally to a community? This industry is much more than the toxicity that we have seen. This is DEF CON 29. We can't stop the signal. There's plenty of signals out here in this community, out of this community. There are folks out here that don't even have degrees. These are some of the most brilliant people that I know. But how are any of you, including myself, how can any of us get into a community and have a positive community if we don't get to know people? Those who are privileged and who recognize their privilege and see themselves as allies. I challenge you to continue, if you have been doing it before, thank you. And if not, buckle up, to be an ally and speak up, reach out, and find the hidden gems that are in the community. And when you see the toxicity and when you see the dogpiling, speak up. Don't be a part of everything that you've seen. There's a lot of people who want a seat at the table. I can't have a seat at the table. So I said, I'm going to be my own table. And by doing that, I've met so many more people, and I've helped bring people into the community. Each one, reach one, rinse, and repeat. You're going to have a long career in cybersecurity. And if you think that you're going to be able to do this by yourself, you might as well just turn the screen off right now. It's not going to happen. There's people from all over the world. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know who's going to be that person that might be speaking up and out for you. But if you don't know them other than just a contact, a like, or a follow, what's the point of connecting? That's not community. And if we're going to build a more secure cybersecurity, especially for the people like myself, who come from historically excluded backgrounds, that do not have the privilege to see some of the things that I have been privileged to see, we have to come together. We have to find a signal. We have to elevate that signal. It's more than checked boxes on a list. I'm not a checked box on a list. Just for historical sake, I'm a citizen of the Gullah Geechee Nation, and I am the only citizen of the Gullah Geechee Nation that I know that is openly Black, excessively autistic, and excessively Black that has produced a talk. I cannot find any other individual that has done the things that I've done, seen the things that I've seen, and have the visions that I have. And while it's great to have all these contacts and all this fame and all of these things, one, I still don't have the money, okay? So I'm gonna need some of y'all to help y'all put your money where your mouth is and put it in reparations.tech. And two, even when I have the money, I need everybody else who's coming behind me. We all need a seat at that table, or we need to be able to have the platforms to be the tables, because it's more than a check. It's more than a dollar sign. If you think knowing your worth doesn't have anything to do with a community, you're gonna be broke, baby. You're gonna be real broke. Alyssa, we can, thank you. Yeah, and about this, before I get out my speak box for a second, for all y'all in the career hacking village, because I've seen a lot of things y'all haven't seen, you're gonna hear a lot of this garbage. We can't find talent. We're right here. Native Americans, African-American folk, Black folk, Caribbean folk. If you're Black, you're brown, and you got some seasoning in you, if you represent less than 5% of tech, with all my intersections, I represent 0.3% of tech. 0.3. That's not okay. But guess what? I know other people who are like me out there in some sort of intersection of way. Don't let what people are telling you they can't find the talent. You're the talent. And guess what? When you put in for these jobs and they tell you that you're not talented, they don't know your worth. Guess what? Your worth might not be meant to be there. It's not worth your time. So when you hear this, push, okay? Because reparations is resilience, and I stand by that. When I hear other individuals from these gatekeeping arguments, we can't find the talent, we're here. Why don't you find yourselves in the communities that are out here asking for the help and find it? We're here, but we need help. And Alyssa, I mean, if this doesn't show you living proof, we're doing it. We're living it. It's more than dollar signs. If I had my way, I wouldn't even do it for the dollar signs, but that's capitalism. And other people have to get paid. So I want to see less of this. I want to see less trash can talk, because guess what? If I hear it one more time, I'm gonna find y'all in waste management. It's more than this. When you come into this industry, you network, you will find the people that don't believe in this, because that is pure garbage.
So what you've seen with this argument is that when the cybersecurity industry says we can't find the talent, there's two things that, it's all self-inflicted wounds. It's things like those bad job descriptions. It's things like we're always looking for people who look like us. And I don't just mean physically, who look like us. We're looking for those that came up the same way. How many people have you heard say, well, you got to be a sysadmin for 5 years before you can get into security, or you got to be a programmer for 5 years before you can do application security, or baloney. You're going to hear those stories. Don't let those voices get into your head. Liana mentioned before that whole gatekeeping thing. The talent gap, they say it's like this. If there's a talent gap at all, it's more like this. The real issue is we just don't know how to search for people in this community and how to hire outside that narrow view that we have of what a cybersecurity professional should look like. So for you, as you're searching for a job or you're searching for that next job, be aware that that's something to overcome, but also be aware that you got folks like me and Liana and many, many, many others fighting to get you in. You do belong here and you will find that role. Don't give up. So let's talk about negotiating that job offer. So you've gone through all this. You've fought hard. You've developed your community. You've leveraged your network. You've gone through the interview process. You told them what you wanted to get paid, and now you get a job offer. And wait, I told you I needed to make more than this. ask for it. So many people are afraid to negotiate a job offer because they're afraid that the organization is going to rescind the job offer. No, they're not. And if they do, trust me, you don't want to work for them. I've interviewed tons of recruiters as part of writing that book. Some of my preparation was talking to recruiters, talking to hiring managers, my own personal experience. Every one of them will tell you that they expect a candidate to negotiate a job offer. Now, maybe it's the base salary. Maybe they can't move on base salary. Maybe they've already come in at the top of their range. What are other things that you could negotiate? You could look at the bonus structure. How often does their bonus get paid out? If it's quarterly, maybe if you get a bigger bonus, that would help. Maybe you could do something different with a signing bonus. Yeah, companies give those too. Maybe it's something else. Be creative. Look for the things that you can negotiate and don't be afraid to ask. They're not going to pull back the job offer simply because you come back with a counter offer. But also know the things that, are just drop dead, they can't change, right? So there are certain things like what you get paid is drop dead for you. For them, if you don't like their insurance package, they can't change that for you, right? They set that stuff at the beginning of the year or actually towards the end of the previous year. They set it for the following year. It's going to be there. They can't change that. The chances of them making changes to it in the future to accommodate specific needs for you, I'm going to be honest with you, pretty iffy. Some organizations, as they're smaller, they can accomplish that. But maybe you can leverage something creative like a signing bonus or something of that nature that would make up for the fact that you won't have the coverage that you want. Maybe more vacation time. You can always negotiate for more vacation time. They may or may not give it to you depending on how stringent their policies are. But those are the kinds of things. Don't be afraid. Go out there and ask. All they can do is say no. But I can promise you they're not going to pull back the job offer simply because you ask. So make sure you stick to your guns. Set that point that you need to be making X salary and go get yourself paid.
And the hidden rule that I wish that I knew before I started my process of getting to know my worth in cybersecurity. My father once gave me a riddle and he said, what's the most valuable thing that you can never get back? It's not bought, it's not sold. And I'm like 6. I said, I don't know. It's time, T-I-M-E, okay? You can get your money back. You can't get your time back. And while you're going through this process of cybersecurity, here's the thing that you might not see in the books. It's a laborious process. You're going to take time. You're going to take effort. You're going to be spending a lot of money. And if you come from a historically excluded group, I'm just going to be real with you right now. Some of you guys might be working 2-3 jobs because you don't know what to do. As you go through this process, continue to network and use your time wisely. Cybersecurity, self-care, and regulation of your time are going to be the 3 most important things that you can do to know your worth. Before you get to a check mark, before you look at a piece of paper, it's like Alyssa said, you need to understand what you need for a dollar amount. But before you can get to that dollar amount to figure out what you need, how are you going to take care of yourself in this process? It's not a wham bam, let me go to Google and solve it out. You're going to have to take care of yourself. It's a tiring process. You're going to lose some sleep. You're going to cry. You're going to cry some ugly tears because knowing your worth is shedding the ugliest of boo-hoo tears. And you're going to get to the ugliest parts of yourself because when you know your worth, you know that you have to break yourself down to build yourself up. And you have to know your why. And when you tell yourself, I'm out the game and I don't want to do it, why are you doing this? Because if you want it for just the money, just say that and go. You want the check, that's cool. You're not going to survive. That's just being real. You have to find something that doesn't have a tangible value on paper, that makes you know your why, that reminds you who you are, that lets you know your worth in spite of everything that is happening. That's my worth right there. That's my reminder to take care of myself in this process because I know what I'm doing to help bring the people behind me so we can elevate that signal so that everyone can get paid and know their worth because it's much more than a dollar sign. It's freedom of choice. It's freedom of expression. It's freedom of the ability to be vulnerable and have a community and a sense of understanding. again, if you think it's a dollar sign, it's not for you. The signal can't be stopped, but we have to work together to make sure that we elevate that signal so that we can stop the damage and stop the bleeding from now. Alyssa, thank you so much. All of you guys that are watching, thank you guys so much. Please, when you get a chance, take a look at reparations.tech. You can take a look at my LinkedIn, reach out to me on Twitter. Alyssa, I will hand it off to you, my dear. Thank you again.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you, DEF CON, for the opportunity. And you've got our contact information. As Liana said, reach out. We'll help you build that network. That's what we're here for. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the conference, the rest of the village, and we will see you when we're live again someday soon.
See y'all
Bye.
soon.
And thank both of you. If anyone has any questions, you can catch them in Discord for a few more minutes. Thanks, guys.